Welcome to the Mind for Success podcast, a space for heart-centered entrepreneurs to live in deep alignment with what matters most, overcome subconscious limitations, and shift their energy into an unstoppable force. Before we get started, take a deep breath, hit the subscribe button, and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to the Mind for Success podcast. I am your host, Kimberly Lebbing, and today we have a special episode today because it is the last episode in this season. We're calling this season 1 of the Mind for Success podcast, and today is the last episode. And I want to go into that. I'm going to highlight today some of our most memorable episodes and also some of the changes, the why behind it, some success stories, and leave you with some words of wisdom. So the Mind for Success podcast, the mission behind it has been to really empower and encourage and inspire entrepreneurs who are ready to get past limitations. And we did that by interviewing business owners, coaches, consultants, leaders in their industry who were on their own journeys and had stories of overcoming many things throughout their businesses. So that's what it's been about. And so today I just want to reflect on the journey, where we are so far. I made some notes. I actually went through all of my episodes and I wrote down my top 5. I want to say this, with great gratitude. I want to thank each and every guest that I have had on this show. I know that it was, with each and every person, there was some great connections made. And I also know that with each and every person, there was value given to my audience. So I want to thank you for that. So if you're not listed here, it doesn't mean you weren't perfect or that you didn't do it right. It was all about, I just went through and just posted or thought about some of the episodes that really impacted me, that led to maybe other things or other insights. And so I wanted to share those with you. So I'm going to go back. And I also want to, before I start sharing these episodes, I want to reflect a little bit on the journey. So podcasting was new to me. I hadn't done it before. And when I started this journey, it was very awkward and wasn't sure where I was going to find guests. Well, it didn't take long to have just a whole wait list of people that wanted to be on the show. So there was a lot of learning on my part on how to interview guests and, getting systems in place. I've had a great podcast support person all along from the very beginning, which I would never do one without that support. So that was very important. So if you're out there listening and you are thinking about doing a podcast, I will say this: get a really good support person. If you need one, reach out to me because I've got one. So going back to some of my most memorable episodes, and I just want to talk about some of the connections that were made through there. So one was episode 17 with Jennifer Bardot. This episode was called How to Have Grit. And if you follow her on social media at all, she is just a powerhouse for empowering women. In fact, in the St. Louis area, she has created just a really amazing community for women. And she helps them write books. That's not her main thing, but that she's had this whole grit series. The community, I think, is becoming more of the main thing. But this grit book series where she's had several women, I think there's 40 women in each chapter of her books, who tell their stories and are able to tell them authentically and from the heart. And she's just got a great mission for women and supporting them. And as a result of having her on the show, I ended up in one of her books, and that just launched this past summer. So the series that I was in was called Intention in the Grit series. So anyway, I wanted to share that because I just love her work. And if you go back and listen to episode 17, you can hear the passion in her voice that she has, and along with her story and how she was raised and why she has such a passion for women. Another great episode that I loved was episode 21, Michael DeLeon. And Michael DeLeon's episode was called Marketing the Right Way. He is an amazing marketer. After that episode, I followed him, signed up for his emails, and he is a genius when it comes to marketing and connecting with people. He helps business owners write books. And he also not only writes books, I know I'm talking about writing books a lot, but not only the writing of the books, but he helps them market it and create relationships and really just a whole lead and referral system out of that, so that, you aren't just saying, oh, I'm an author, now I've got a book, and not really doing anything with it. So I want to encourage you to listen to his episode. He is just a dynamic person. You can hear it. So if you haven't listened to, that's one that I would go back and listen to. Another favorite, this is number 3, episode 26, Tyler Foley. And Tyler, also just a dynamic person. He's very much a professional as far as podcasting goes and podcast guesting. He wrote a few books himself on the subject. And his episode was called Why You Never Want to Visualize Your Audience Naked. And what Tyler does is he helps people with speaking. He helps leaders, entrepreneurs, coaches, business owners with speaking. So much value also in that episode on just lots of tips on how to get in front of people and how to shift your mindset around that. Loved it. Another notable episode 34 with Michael Harris. And his episode was called Taking Quantum Leaps in Life and in Business. And one of the things about Michael's episode that really resonated with me is Michael has just a huge health journey story that he went through. And personally, I resonated with this because I had my own health journey, and I know the mindset that it takes to get in front of that or get ahead of that. And he tells it in a way that's really engaging and inspiring. And that was one of those episodes that I really liked listening to even over again, because he also has a great heart for helping people and helping entrepreneurs. And how he did that was just an incredible story. And then another there's so many favorites, but I'm only going to give you 5 because otherwise I could just go on and on. Anthony Amighetti. His episode was episode 42, Living Life Like a Playground. And I loved his episode when he came on and I read his bio and the humongous business that he had built, and how awesome and how real he is. And he literally lives his life like it's a playground. But also what stood out to me is he has built this amazing business and huge amount of success. And he still is in a place where he sometimes struggles with mindset, and he gets himself out of it. But, it was just a good lesson to hear, I think, for all of us, that we're always growing. We'll always have some struggles that we go through as we grow our businesses and as we connect with people. So it was just a great reminder, and how realistic he was is what I probably love the most. So I encourage you to go back and listen to that one too, episode 42. Okay. So next, I wanted to just talk briefly about my own lessons and transformational shifts that I had throughout the podcast. If you listen to the beginning episodes, they may sound a little more scriptive. I wasn't as off the cuff and conversational in the beginning. So that's definitely, the skills of a podcast was definitely part of my growth. Also, earlier this year in the spring, I had a shift in how I was marketing my business and how I was presenting it. And there was parts of the way the podcast description was and how I was presenting it that had changed. And so we had a logo change, the feel of the podcast changed. I have been shifting. So I shifted my business a bit from talking more about success to now about, it's really important to shift your energy and transformation first. And while these are things that I was doing back then, it wasn't said in my marketing in the way I was presenting myself. And so it wasn't feeling aligned. So I had a conversation with my podcast person, Jazzy, and we shifted some things, and that felt really good. So one of the lessons in this for me is, and in my business in general, is do what is aligned for you, because when you feel off or like things aren't aligning, because we do change, our shifts change, like our perspectives change. And sometimes we shift in our business, not totally out of it. It's not that I'm doing anything different, but the perspective is just slightly different. And it's important that your messaging aligns with that. And so that was a lesson that I learned and some shifts that we made along the way. And I loved that we did that. And it was interesting because I also noticed a different type of guest that was coming on. And you can almost see that if you look at the episodes. And not that there was anything wrong with the people prior, it was just a different sort of energy, if that makes sense. So next, I want to talk about success stories. So a couple of success stories I know that I've had specifically from people that have been on the podcast has been the connections that they've made. I've had several people message me that they had gotten business. I have one person that I'm thinking of in particular who used the podcast as she was bringing team on to her business. And she used it because before she was always telling her story to her team so that they could relate and connect. And then she shifted to using the podcast for that. So she would send them their episode where she was able to share their story. So it was huge. It was a time saver for her, but also a connector for her as she was able to connect with more people in a faster way. So that's one success story. And then I also had a listener reach out, and this has been recently, who literally went through and listened to all the episodes. And he made connections with some of the people that were in the podcast that have been really great positive changes for him and his business. And I think in particular, he had listened to the episode, and it's been recent. I don't have it in front of me, but Laura Gisborne's episode, who she does a lot of work with women and helping them, women and men, with helping them really get clear on what they are about in their business. And she does a lot of philanthropy work and gifting and donations and that type of thing. So that listener listened to every episode and actually reached out to several people within the podcast for help in his business. So I loved hearing that. And then I want to give you just a way to connect and follow me, because just because this season is ending does not mean you're not going to see me, because honestly, my business is busier than it's ever been. I am in the middle of launching 2 masterminds in my business and currently bringing on an influx of several new clients. And so I still plan on putting out content. So if you're not following me or you're not getting my newsletter, I'm on all the socials. I often talk about a download I have it's right on my website, and we'll make sure that's in the show notes, where you can help you identify what limiting beliefs you might have. But also, when you sign up for that, you'll be connected to any events that I have. I'm hosting retreats now, and you'll be able to get those newsletters from me to let you know what is going on. And then a few words of wisdom going forward. Recently I have talked with a couple of retired CEOs, and they hired me to help them with some mindset things. And one of the things that was present for both of them was they had some regrets about how they were being when they were building their business and building their career. And meaning that they were so much in the doing of things that some relationships got hurt, and was just a lot of regret in that area. And one of the things that I am teaching in my masterminds and in one-on-one in my coaching is that your business does not have to be hard. It does not have to be a big grind and doing all the things. Our world really impresses that on us, that if you want to be successful, you have to grind and do all the things. And it's simply not true. When you're working with trusting yourself first, and really working so that you are doing the things that work best for you, your business is going to be successful. Your time is really precious. It's important to spend time on your business, but it's also important that you're not doing it so much that you are burning through relationships. And truth be told, we get 80% of our business comes from 20% of our activity. And so when you think about that, you can really hone in on what is important. So my words of wisdom to you is to stay connected with yourself and trust yourself that you can build a business and have a successful business and not have to give up your relationships, your time, and all those things that at the end of life, those are the things that we want the most. So thanks again for listening today. I just want to express gratitude that if you are a listener, I want to thank you for your support. If you've been on the show before, I just want to thank you for that. And I look forward to the next chapter. So I don't have a plan yet as far as a season 2 of this podcast. I'm not sure when that will happen. But I do want to be able to connect with you and know that I will still be putting out videos. I still will be putting out content. You can find me on YouTube. That's something that I'm growing, is the videos and the connections that I have made on socials. So thanks for listening. Have a great day. Thank you for listening today. I want to invite you to download my free guide at resources.kimberlylebbing.com/unlock. It's called Unlocking Your Authentic Self, 5 Key Steps to Identify and Overcome Hidden Limitations in Your Life and Business and Realize Your Highest Potential. Thank you again for listening today.